Danny, how's the job?
It's busy. We've been really busy, but it's good.
Yeah, you like it?
I do like it. It's something to do, gets me out of the house in sort of a safe way, It's nice.
I would think the time goes pretty quick at a place like that.
Definitely. I usually work about 5-hour shifts, and it's like nothing. I
Yeah.
walk in at 12, and then it's just.
The people you work with, fun?
Yeah, I like my coworkers a lot,
Good.
so it's nice.
Good. Travis, do you like your coworkers a lot? Trick question.
The live stream is running.
Thank you.
I had a different quip, but I'll save it for later.
Right, that'd be good.
Danny, I didn't get to hear where you're working.
I work at Dutch Bros. I have been working there for about 9 months now.
Oh, yeah, that would be fast paced. That's cool.
I managed to take down the tent in the backyard, and I'll tell you, the convenience of backyard camping, this is fantastic. You just walk the stuff back into the garage.
That's a good adventure you had with the kids this weekend.
It was so fun.
That's good. Very fun.
We have a backyard fire pit that we enjoy a lot, but I don't have to put up a tent. I get to just, sleep in my bed. So I get the best of it without all that extra.
Travis, did you cook outside so the kids had breakfast over the camp stove or whatnot? Or did they come back into the house to eat?
One family member played the Dale Spitzer strategy, which was, I'll go sleep in that bed. And then we had fancier breakfast than I could have made on the Coleman grill there. So we ditched the breakfast plan. We did s'mores on the fire.
There you go. That makes it official camping. They should be done with executive session pretty soon here.
Andrew and Danny and Maria, this is your chance. This is that one day the board doesn't show up and you can just take over the district for like maybe even a half an hour, an hour.
So, what TV shows do we like?
Yeah.
I've been watching Community. I elect that if the board doesn't show up and me, Maria, and Andrew have to take over, Maria gets to be the board chair so she can decide what we're going to do.
Second.
First executive action right there.
Sincerely, though, I haven't heard what all your plans are for the fall. I'd love to hear that.
Andrew, do you want to go?
Okay. So at this point, I'll be going to Linfield in the fall. I think campus is set to reopen, given they're in the jurisdiction of Yamhill County, and they've been working closely with Yamhill County health officials to determine what can reopen, whether or not they can even reopen in the first place. But it sounds like the fact that most of the classes are about 25 or under students to begin with, it'll be easy for them to determine whether or not classes can be in campus or online.
That's awesome. And you're taking classes there right now, correct?
Last semester I did.
Last semester.
Yeah.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Adrianella, the proud Linfield grad.
Go Wildcats.
There we go.
Go
I
Cats.
graduated many years ago, but it was a great school. I loved it.
It is.
We're all in this together. But okay, so Willamette is almost the same. Our classes are also very small, so that also helps like still practice social distancing even if we're cleared. But oh yeah, I'm planning to go to Willamette University down in Salem. I'm very excited about it. And so far what I plan to do is take part of the BAGD program, which is like pre-law and law. Instead of 7 to 8 years, it's going to be 6 years to get my law degree. Hopefully I stick with it. And I also plan to major in, it's what's the name of it? It's PPLE. It's politics, policy, law with ethics, and minoring in Spanish. So I'm kind of excited. I've been looking at my classes and they're all interesting. I want to take them all. So I'm scared. Hopefully I don't regret what classes I take. But yeah.
That is awesome. I attended Willamette. Willamette's a great place. Have fun.
As the only junior of the bunch, I'm not going off to university next year. I am continuing. I do the early college program. So I'm at PCC right now. Well, not at PCC. I do the online PCC stuff. And I'm just going to continue with that next year. I should be almost all the way done with my Associate of Arts transfer degree for Oregon. I have a hope to transfer to either Willamette, Western, Reed, or University of Oregon, and I want to study political science, public policy, and with a minor in teaching.
Awesome. Congrats. It's awesome, you guys.
Hi, everyone. Sorry
Hi,
for
Erica.
the delay. I'm just looking for my fellow board members, making sure everybody's.
I feel like
see
I
everyone.
just had a grid view in the executive session. Now I don't have it. This is not cool.
I couldn't get it in either one.
Oh, there we go. Now I'm getting it. All right.
I don't see Yadira yet.
Yeah. I'm waiting for Martin's on here.
Beth, the live streaming's already begun. Is that correct? All right. Thank you.
Whoever sees your deer first, just let me know and then we'll get started.
Oh, sorry. I just thought I was muted.
Sounds like Danny was sharing her plans for the fall. And I think I know what Andrew's are. Is Maria on here? Did she share hers? I guess I missed it. Maria, would you mind resharing it in some way if you're here?
I am going to Willamette University down in Salem.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was telling them that I am planning to take part of the BAGD program to attain my law degree quicker if I stay with it, and major in politics, policy, law, and ethics with minoring in Spanish.
I love that we have a live stream channel just at our disposal. Just throw it up there. So Jordan or whomever, Beth, made that happen. Well done.
I have to give credit to Justin. He's monitoring it. Yep, he's making it happen.
There she is.
And she's here. Yay. All right, everyone. We are calling to order this work session of the Hillsboro School Board. And our first item that we have is with Greg McKenzie on our board self-evaluation and orientation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 2 years ago, we did a board self-evaluation using a tool or a document that we have used several years before. In the past, we had been doing them annually, and then we decided that every 2 years was probably a more appropriate amount of time between the annual, board self-evaluations. This particular one probably is pushed down a couple of weeks simply because we pushed the superintendent evaluation down a couple of weeks. So the calendar that we had proposed earlier in the year probably needs to be revisited for doing the board self-evaluation. I have a couple of questions for the board. One is, do you still want to do a board self-evaluation given the circumstances of the COVID-19 disruptions? Second question, if the answer to that one is yes, then we need to readjust the calendar or adjust the calendar to make it work for you so that you have the information by the time you have your annual retreat in the summer. And then the third question is, if the answer to those two are yes, the third question would be, who should we collect information from for the board self-evaluation? The options are just the board. Option 2 would be the board and the senior level administration or cabinet. Option 3 would be adding others that have close connections to the board and frequently see the board doing its work. And then the fourth possibility would be reaching out to local government leaders through not an online questionnaire perhaps, but through a telephone interview or an email interview. I will share with you that collecting information from local leaders has been a challenge whenever we've tried to do it. They're busy just like you are, and lots of times they're hesitant to share their observations and comments about the board. It sounds wonderful, but it's hard to get good, meaningful information from them. So those are the three questions I would have for you. One is, do we still want to do board self-eval this year? If the answer to that is yes, let's talk about a revised calendar. And then if we get the revised calendar set before you have your board retreat this summer, then let's talk about who should we collect information from. And I would encourage you to collect not only from the board members, but from those who have a lot of interaction with you during the course of the year through board meetings and see you in action. And that usually is the senior level administrators, or in this case, the cabinet. So.
Thank you, Greg. We have a comment from Mark.
Yeah, for me a little bit, I think this was the year we had talked about doing 360 or pretty wide. So for people on staff, I'm guessing they're all 12-month employees. What I don't want is for our requests for input from the staff to overlap with time off and them have to do this like in their free time or whatever. So I'm guessing all of the people with whom we ask on staff are 12 months, but I just wanted to check.
I'm looking to just hear from our fellow board members what your thoughts are regarding Greg's first question, is if we should do an evaluation.
I think we should. I think we said we'd do it every 2 years, and I think we should. And I also think we should include the 360 this year.
All right, great. Lisa said yes on the comments. Feel free. And yes to 360. Looking for Martin, Yadira, and Jackie. I'm sorry, and Chien chime in if. Yep, there we go on the chat.
So I assume when you say the 360, that means those who have a lot of interaction with you as board members rather than remote people who simply read about you in the newspaper. So that might be another 10 or 15 people. And I can work together with Mike and Rose to come up with a list of those who most often have worked with you on the board or see you in action.
Martin, did you have a comment or just that's it? I'm looking. Okay, that's all. It's good with other way. So the first question is yes. So we need to revise our calendar. The last question I think was just Mike or our cabinet providing that board feedback. And I don't know if that 360 included like leadership from other government agency. Is that separate? And if that's separate, I just wanted to hear from our board members. Is that something that you want to try to get? Or if we're just looking for cabinet and thoughts.
I'd like to include the community like we had planned. And I think Jackie's right. We have seen a list somewhere of those people, but I don't see them in this one.
It's in the packet. It's page 7 of the board packet.
I see page 7 is the list of people on there. Oh yeah, okay, it is at the top. All right. Right, and I think you're right, Greg. You may have trouble getting everyone to participate, but even if they don't, I would prefer to give them the opportunity than not.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. There's a couple of groups of people I would particularly be interested in hearing from, and that is the Citizens Curriculum Advisory Committee, the PAC, and the citizen members of the Budget Committee. Those are kind of, that's a slice of the community that I would really, I think might actually give us some good feedback.
Okay. Jackie, you have a comment?
Sorry, it took me a minute to mute. Can we I think we can include whoever we want. My question would be, are those superintendent committees or are those board committees? And do we want to make sure that we don't just pick the most visible ones, but pick maybe a committee that isn't as visible or doesn't meet as often as those? I just want to make sure we're covering our bases.
Well, my comment was the board committees. So
Oh,
whatever
okay.
slice of the world is the board committees. I don't know that the PAC is a board committee, but if it isn't a board committee, that is a group of people that I would be interested in hearing their comments. So board committees and PAC.
So
I just question. Oh, never mind.
So, Madam Chair, so let's do this. If you can give me a new calendar, I don't need to stick around for that, but if you can revise that calendar, we'll make that happen. And then I'll get together with Rose and Mike and identify those people you've just talked about who have a lot of interactions with the board, not only administrative staff, but also citizens who have a lot of connections with you. And we'll come up with a process for collecting information from them and report it to you.
That's awesome. That sounds great.
Okay.
We will do that.
And Erica, Rose and I will come up with a revised calendar tomorrow and to propose to you.
Okay, sounds good. Jackie, do you have a question?
Yes, sorry. What is the financial responsibility for this survey and adding people to the 360, I'm sure adds an expense to that. I just want to make sure we're cognizant. I want to get as much feedback as we can, and I totally agree with what everybody's saying. I just want to make sure that what that's going to look like.
You mean how much is that going to cost?
Pretty much.
And the answer is, I don't know until we sit down and chart it out, but I will say to you, I think with a lot of confidence that the collection of the superintendent evaluation information plus what we're talking about here is not going to exceed $2,500 total.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you, Greg, for your input, and we will be reaching out to you.
Okay, thank you. I am going to have dinner. Is that okay?
That sounds great. Have a good evening. All right, everyone. Our next item on our agenda is our discussion about board leadership.
So do we have to revise the self-evaluation timeline, or do we just table that to later?
We're going to provide Rose and Mike are going to work on a calendar, a new calendar timeline, and provide that to Greg. Okay, so our next item was our discussing our board leadership. As you know, we only have one more meeting next month, and then after that, we will be starting basically our new leadership cycle, but when school resumes. And this is an opportunity for the board members to mention and state if they have interest in serving in the vice chair or chair of the school district board. I just wanted to make sure I just mention how appreciative I am of all of you, and this year has been kind of a roller coaster, but it's been really, really great, and it's been an amazing learning experience and growth opportunity for me. I am super thankful that I get to serve with all of you, and appreciative of our student reps and our cabinet who make our board meetings just such a great time for us to continue to serve our community. So I am also just wanted to mention that I am very interested in continuing to serve. I think that just my thoughts regarding this is that at this time it's there's a lot of instability, I think, in our community of where we're going to go and what would school look like. And I would really like to continue being here and serving you all. So I just wanted to express to you all my desire to continue to be your chair next year. And I'm also going to just open it up to hear from all of you if there's anybody else interested as well. And I have a comment from Mark.
I just wanted to thank Board Chair Lopez, Vice Chair Granum, and Superintendent Scott very much for, in this sort of crazy world, you all have done an amazing job of keeping us on track, keeping board meetings focused, and keeping us moving forward. I can't even imagine how much extra work it was for y'all during the pandemic, but you've done an amazing job, and I just wanted to thank you guys for that.
Thank you. We have a comment from Lisa as well.
Okay. I totally agree with Mark. I think that Erica and Martin, you've done a great job leading the board, and Mike, of course, leading your hugely impactful and small but mighty team of district leadership on that side as well. So thank you for that. So I just wanted to say maybe it's a good idea to kind of talk about what the responsibility looks like for folks who aren't sure if they're interested. If you want to do that, or I can do that, because it's not an easy job that you do, Erica, nor is it.
Take it away, Lisa. You got it.
So just it's really important that people are excited to do it, and I love that Erica wants to serve again. I think you've done a fantastic job. But the vice chair takes on a lot of responsibility too. So first of all, the chair and the vice chair get a lot of phone calls that the rest of us don't get about a lot of different things that are happening, since they're kind of the point people. If there is any interest from the media and things like that, responding to any emails that come out on behalf of the entire board, reading them and making sure that you connect community members with folks in cabinet that they need to connect to, or gathering information as needed. Agenda planning meetings, which take usually 90 minutes or more every couple of weeks, and preparing to answer questions about the agenda from other board members, and a lot of things like that. I would say it's probably a minimum of 5 hours a week, 5 hours a month if you are a vice chair, and more if you're chair, but probably a little bit more than that. And I bet right now with the crisis, it's even more. That being said, being vice chair is a great way to learn how to be chair, and being chair is a great way to learn how the district runs and to connect with the community, because you're kind of the face of the board. So they're really important jobs that are super fun and fantastic, but it is a lot of work, just so you know. Okay, the end.
Thanks, Lisa. Does anybody else have any questions? Or this is kind of like a great opportunity also to just ask Martin and myself. We are happy to answer any questions regarding serving in positions. So feel free to ask, and also to express any interest in either.
Sorry, I was going to type comment, but nobody talks, so I'll just talk. I do think Lisa's right in that I think the vice chair role serves as sort of an excellent apprenticeship for being chair. I think like the idea of someone jumping into the chair role, should Erica choose not to continue after the next year, I think it's important for that person to have some vice chair experience.
I also just wanted to share with you all that I think the additional role for me as a vice chair, it's been great having Martin, but I think one of the things that he really has helped me with is also to just be another advisor in making a lot of the decisions that we bring to our board, and kind of bouncing off a lot of ideas and figuring out how to communicate effectively, and then also how to make, bring information and make the best decisions for our district. He's been really, really amazing. Just to have someone like that that you can speak to, that's really a big role or part, I think, of the vice chair, is providing that advisory role, and being able to kind of push back, and also like figure out, letting me kind of, flesh out some ideas, which has been wonderful. So thank you, Martin.
You guys should find a way to divide up the task of reading the random emails that I send out, so that not one person is stuck with that all the time.
Duly noted, Mark. Does anybody else have additional comments? Jackie, I see you unmuted, so I just
I
checking.
did unmute. I'm just, yeah, I would possibly be interested in vice chair. I don't know what Martin's looking at right now, but if he doesn't want to, he's doing an excellent job. So if he wants, then, you know, but yeah, I think I might be interested in that. Obviously, I haven't thought too much about that.
No, this is great. This is just an opportunity to kind of raise up whoever might be interested, and we'll be definitely having another conversation about this. So if there's anybody else that wants to speak to that. Okay. All right. There's a couple comments from Lisa. It's incredibly challenging to be chair without the vice chair experiences. I definitely agree that. And Martin, what is your plan?
Well, have enjoyed serving. I truly enjoy working with Erica and Mike. It's been a pleasure. I do have the bandwidth for things that are scheduled, like most district events. I'm able to rearrange my schedule and participate. And I would add to what Lisa said, that showing up at a lot of the ancillary events is really important, that the board's represented, things like vals and sals and retirements and ribbon cuttings and that sort of thing. And, when I accepted the vice chair position, I sort of took it upon myself to make sure that the board was represented. And I typically wasn't the only board member there, but I was rather consistently there. So I would just say, if the board wants me to serve, I have the bandwidth and I've enjoyed it. And if somebody else wants it and the board wants somebody else to do that, that would be fine with me too. It is, I am remarkably at peace with whatever the group decision is. I would like the board to be unified behind the chair and vice chair. I'd like everybody to vote for whoever gets it. So that would be my request, because they really are our representatives in those two seats, and I'd like it to be unanimous in the final count.
Thanks, Martin. Okay, so I think if no one else wants to mention any interest, we will have, will we be voting on our next meeting for, and making nominations? So I just wanted to make sure that that's out there. And I am just reading Jackie's comment. With the uncertainty of my work and availability, it may not be the best time for me. Okay. Thank you, Jackie. And just needing to think about it. Okay, so we'll have definitely that voting time on our next meeting. And Lisa, you had a comment?
Sorry, I'm not going to talk this much the whole meeting, guys. I just happen to have a lot to say about this particular topic and the one before this. One thing that we should maybe keep in mind, and it's okay if we don't plan this far ahead, but is the cycle of elections for board members, and when people are up for election versus who will not be up for election. Some of us will be here longer than others if everyone decides not to run or isn't elected or whatever. And what happened in a previous cycle was we got a bunch of new board members who were the greatest board members ever. But then there were some of us who were stuck around, and we had the bond, and we also had chair leadership. That's exactly what I'm saying, Mark. And so no, I'm just kidding. But so that when I stepped into being chair, I hadn't yet had the opportunity to be vice chair, and that was because of kind of how we had stacked the stuff. And then Kim was running the bond and couldn't do both. And so that's not to say that Yadira or Sheehan necessarily need to do it this time. I don't have the bandwidth to do it again, unfortunately. So it's not something that I would be, and I've also already had my turn if we take turns, but it might be worth considering that, we do have those cycles, and this may not be the time to think about that, but we want to make sure that whoever steps into that role in a couple of years is prepared. So.
Thank you, Lisa. That's a great point. Just looking at our timelines. Okay, so our next item on our agenda, we are moving on, is our 2021 board meeting schedule with Mike.
All right, thank you. So every year about this time, we start looking at our schedule for the coming year. And of course, we don't know what the opening of school is going to look like, but we can at least set our board agendas. And it feels like we've fallen into a rhythm here of being able to do these remotely. That seems to be working pretty well for all of us. When it comes to the actual monthly meeting, the Tuesday evening meetings, there really is there's a rhythm to that. And you can see that reflected there. The meetings that don't follow a specific schedule would be the board retreat, and which takes place in August. We currently have that scheduled for August 5th, and we typically work that around all of the administrative training and in-services that we do during the month of August. And so we find a date where we can fit that in, and that is scheduled for August 5th. And then, of course, there's the budget committee meetings. Because we will be looking at a new biennium this time next year, that'll be right in front of us. There is a chance that we would, while we may not need to schedule additional meetings, we will have the budget committee join us early like we typically have. And so what I would be asking right now is just for you to take a look at these meeting dates and see if these work for you. The other thing we wanted to revisit just quickly is that whole notion of a half-day retreat in the spring that we tried for the first time this last year, and if that was something that was worthwhile for you, and if so, does this look like a time that might work for you? So I'd be interested in your feedback on this.
I would just like to add that I think the half-day retreat was really beneficial for us, and it provided some additional time to do some of the board professional development that I'm always advocating for. So I just want to advocate for that. So we have a question from Mark.
Yeah, I was just going to support the concept of a half-day retreat. I think it ended up, because of the crisis we were in, taking on the shape of a probably heartier board session than a retreat. But I think it was good that we had all planned out that extra time. And so, I mean, as we've seen a few meetings go along, it was good to have it. So I think conceptually, I'm still behind the idea of a half-day retreat in the spring and finding a way to make that work.
All right.
There's also just an additional comment from Jackie that the dates work for her, and she also likes the idea of the half-day retreat.
And Rose, can you remind me what time we started that half-day retreat? Was that a 3 o'clock start time or a 3 o'clock?
3 o'clock. Yep.
Okay. And did that work for people generally? Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Maybe I think the only thing maybe I could say about the half-day retreat, if it's possible, and maybe do a noon, so then we finish earlier in the evening versus that might be a noon on, but it's my only suggestion.
All right. When we discussed the time before, and we can do whatever. When we discussed the time before, we were trying to be careful about people having to take a half-day vacation day or that kind of thing. So I think that's why we landed on the 3 o'clock time. But that was a lot of decisions ago, so I could be off base on that.
I think that's a regular board meeting night too, so we probably would have to have the 7 o'clock meeting. Probably.
Okay, gotcha.
Does that end up being basically the Tuesday before spring break? I guess find the 2021 calendar. Yeah, okay. All right, it is.
Okay, so I think we're all in agreement. I'm looking at everybody's heading nods that they all like the half-day retreat and the dates look good, but we'll let you know if there's any conflict.
Okay, thank you.
Our next item that we have on our agenda is our COVID-19 update with Mike.
All right, thank you. We do have a number of things to update you about. As you know, things change so frequently around this that that we try and schedule time just to provide you with some information that that you may need or you may be wondering about. And so let me just go through. There's a number of us that are going to share some information this evening, but let me start by just talking a little bit about the fact that we are working on what our fall 20 is going to look like for reopening. And actually, we're trying. I just did it, but we're trying not to call it reopening because the school is in session right now. So we're really trying not to use that phrase. But what is it going to look like in fall? And we are expecting to get from the state a set of guidelines in the next week or so that would indicate those things that we need to be thinking about and some of the requirements around what it would look like for us to go back to an on-site education experience. And so that will likely include things like how many kids can gather at any one time, how many kids in a classroom, what kind of physical space do they need, what are the guidelines around transportation, what are the guidelines around lunches and recess and those kind of things. And there's a lot of work being done at the state level around that. And we are now working in conjunction with 4 other school districts and having conversations with them around what are their plans for fall 2021, so that we can be thinking about, so that we can just share all the best ideas that we have. So we are working on that. I think Mark will have some information here a little later about potentially when the legislative session is going to come into play. And now that he's an inside expert, we can draw on his wisdom. But there is, in meetings that have been going on, there is very little likelihood that there will be a short session before June 15th. And I'll let Mark expand on that. And most people are thinking that would be the very, very earliest, and it's likely to be later. So we've got some time to work on this, and like I said, we're working in conjunction with other school districts. But one of the things that I wanted to give Dale a chance to share with you are just some of the things that we've been thinking about. She's working with a team of people to start envisioning what it might look like when we go back on site, and some of the decision points that need to be made. So Dale, I'll turn it over to you and let you do some sharing.
I just wanted to cut in and mention to our board members that I'll let Mike and the team kind of give us an update first, and then I'll call on your questions to make sure maybe they get addressed.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. So yes, like Mike said, we have a team of people in our department that are sort of working on different scenarios of what it might look like. Specifically looking at completely online learning with graded options, hybrid model with restricted numbers that may be 10 or 25, or just some of the parameters that we're seeing around students gathering. So we're trying to flesh out a variety of models and looking at what's available out there and just kind of mining the wisdom. I was able to sit in on an ODE input session last Thursday and just kind of hear about the frame from which they're looking at kind of building some recommendations and some suggestions from. So it was very much in the early stages of those conversations, but it was at least nice to be invited to participate in that. So what they are doing is continuing to seek input, and what we're hearing is by the 31st that we're supposed to get some sort of initial kind of proposal that school districts and those who are implementing the plan might be able to start putting a little bit even more meat onto their plans. So I know for us, we're really proud of our teachers. We feel like they've done a really good job working collaboratively. We, as you know, are on Google Classroom as a system, unless teachers were already using Seesaw or another learning management system. And that's been really beneficial because I think as families are trying to line up helping their kids, they know that we're all using the same learning management system. So that's helped. I think our biggest concern has been over time, we're seeing fewer kids engage in the instruction. And of course, that's concerning. We don't see as many in elementary levels, which I think that's predominantly dependent more on families. So we're not seeing that slide as drastically as we are seeing it in high schools. And our high school teams are doing a really great job reaching out to kids, and they've got forms and structures where they're calling and emailing and connecting with parents. And I'm really proud of the work they're doing, but we're finding a lot of our students are working, or they're just simply not engaging. They feel like they've passed the course, and so they're no longer engaging. So that's of concern. We have, as you know, we chase our seniors, and we have close to 200 seniors that we still have yet to get across the line that are still engaged with us. And that's probably the highest number that we've ever had. And again, schools are doing a great job. They're sending me updates multiple times throughout the day, celebrating more of the students that are crossing the line. But it's a pretty heavy lift, and we're pulling out all the stops in terms of reaching out and connecting with whoever might have a relationship with the student. But it is of concern, and we're really hoping that we get to come back in some sort of hybrid model, because we know those relationships are really important, and it's really difficult when we're relying on technology or some other form of connection, and we can't look at our kids and really engage them. So that's what we're looking forward to for the fall.
All right, thank you, Dale. The next portion that we wanted to update you on just has to do with summer school. There's been a lot of questions about, are we going to do summer school? If so, what would that look like? And Travis has been working with the team to address that issue, and wanted to give him a chance to give you an update on this.
Thanks, Mike. Yep, we're working as a team across departments with federal programs and student services. We have a team of folks who are looking at providing an Avid Excel summer bridge, for example, to some students going into middle school. We have planned to provide summer programming online, but we're still exploring the possibility of offering something in a hybrid model where some students would get small group or one-on-one support. We're looking at logistics, gathering feedback from families to see who would be willing to send their students to a building for some small group instruction and more of a normal school day, even if that's not every day. We're looking at gathering registration information soon so that we would know exactly who would be interested in coming during the month of July, so that we can plan logistics with nutrition services, transportation, health and safety, etc. Wanted to answer the why. Why would we be wanting to do a hybrid model this July? And there's three reasons that we talked about today in our meeting. Was one, that some of our students need our support. They need an on-ramp to next year. They need some human relationship building and some reconnection that may have been missing in the last couple of months. And we know who some of those students are. We also need to figure out logistics for the fall as we look at new safety protocols, new transportation systems, new ways of running school. We think we can do that in a smaller program or programs this summer. And also, we believe we can do something that makes a difference for kids, even if it's a modest set of programs and a small number of kids we serve. It's worth it to us to figure out if we can plan and do that. Health and safety would be our top priority. And if we decide at the end of the month that we're not able to provide and meet all the guidelines that have been provided for us, we may decide to go on fully online. But right now, we continue to plan as though a hybrid model would be a possibility.
All right, thank you. We, as you know, we have been working diligently to make sure that more and more of our students are online and have that option available. One of our thinking points as we've been moving forward is, what is that going to look like at the end of the school year? And is that something that we can continue that access? So Jordan, could you give us a tech update regarding the hardware that we currently have out to our students?
Yeah, so we've worked hard at getting all of the hotspots out, and in fact, we have excess ones now on the shelf, and so we've been getting that message out that if anyone needs those, we do have them and are available, along with Chromebooks and so forth. So our plan is trying to highlight that students and families should keep those devices through the summer unless they're actually leaving and not planning on coming back next school year, so that they can continue doing some learning and other activities and continue having access to information and so forth. So we're working on that, as long as working toward our one-to-one deployment for next year, and how we would swap those out as we would come back next fall. So we'll be highlighting that, trying to get schools to have families keep those devices over the summer.
All right, and our final update area, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have, is going to be with Beth regarding the graduation plans.
Okay, I promise to hold it together this time. And part of why I can do that is that things are going much better this week than they were when we last spoke. So we are all systems go for our virtual graduation ceremony. We have spread out each comprehensive high school over a 2-day filming schedule, which I'm sure you've already received, in hopes that that additional time can make it more realistic for us to get through all of the graduates. You know, even if each student only took less than 2 minutes to film, that would still have us at 12 hours. And that's if nothing went wrong and there were no breaks. So hopefully spreading it over 2 days will allow us to get there. And schools are having students sign up for time slots that work for them in no more than 20 to 25 students per hour. And we're really hoping that by metering it all out, we can establish a good flow going through there. We are going to be live streaming the filming of the virtual graduation. So that will be a very long stream. However, it will allow students, for example, if they're 2 cars back from the stage, they could text or call a family member and say, hey, I'm 5 minutes away from walking, so tune into the live stream and you can watch me. So that should be good. And also the folks at Audio Pros Northwest who are filming the graduation, they're going to bring an FM transmitter out to the stadium. And if people tune in to FM 88.9, once they get into the stadium, they'll be able to hear the stage mic where the students are saying their name before they walk across the stage. So that'll be kind of a fun way for students to hear which of their friends is getting ready to do their walk across the stage at any given time. So the radius of that transmission is only about a 1/4 mile. So it really is pretty much just for the folks as they enter the stadium, but still that'll be kind of a fun addition to the events. So we're getting there, and we're gonna start bright and early Monday morning. Great weather, so we're happy about it. Andrew, did you have a graduation question?
Yes.
Okay.
It's come to my attention from a few students in our senior leadership class that Tillamook High School is doing sort of a drive-in graduation at their county's fairgrounds. And while I brought up that, you know, it is a more rural county and that it would be a little bit more risky to do it with the Washington County Fairgrounds, that it's still something that's worth bringing up at least, just to bring it up to the board and the cabinet so that everyone can hear it and think about it at least. But what they were thinking about was maybe having a sort of a watch party, and instead of having a drive-in movie theater hosted, that we could try to book the Washington County Fairgrounds out and use that to sort of have like a drive-in, you know, cars parked 6 feet apart. People have to stay in their cars, but they can watch the final footage, so that we can also sort of have a ceremony where people can watch each other walk across the stage. I know that there are a lot of logistics to it, and that it, again, may not be feasible, especially considering that we're still waiting to hear back about whether or not Washington County's plans are even approved for phase 1 reopening. But I still felt that it'd be something worth bringing up.
Are you talking about once the final videos are completed?
Yes.
To watch those?
Yeah.
Does anybody have any additional questions or comments? I know that you had a question more.
About graduation? About graduation, like from a selfish perspective, is there a role for a board member in this model? I'm guessing not, but I figured I'd ask.
We did really I'm going to show up to each ceremony each day, but I won't be able to spend 13 hours a day there every day, but I am going to attend all of them at some point. And I think that would probably be the role. Beth, do you have other ideas on that?
Well, and with no disrespect at all meant to our board members, but we are really trying to pare down the number of humans who are going to be at the stadium, because, you know, it's a tenuous situation, and, you know, a few well-meaning people wanting to be there to show support, and then you've got perhaps a family popping out of their car to take a photo of a student walking across the stage, plus the people who were there videotaping and photographing, and the principal and whatnot.
Suddenly we're over the number.
Before you know it, yeah, we've kind of gone over the number that we're supposed to have. So I'm
wondering if there's I was just gonna say, I wonder if there's a possibility of not like being physically there, but you know how we compiled a short video that we have sent out from our own locations, that it's at the beginning saying, or at the end, you know, congratulating them when it's all put together, not as, you know, actually physically being there or able to, but
like to add to the video, to the finished video. Yeah, because I mean, not playing it day of, because like 4 people would see that, but yeah.
Yes, I don't know. That's a suggestion.
We could certainly add that to the videos, if that's something you guys want to do.
Maria, you had a question?
Go ahead, Maria. I think you had a graduation question, right? My question's in the other direction now.
My button wasn't working. It was a question. Well, it was kind of related to Mark's question, but then Mike kind of answered it. So now I have like a petition. If Mike is going to graduation, can he go to the ones that the student reps will be at, and then he could take like the rest of you on like faces on sticks so that you guys can actually be there?
Faces on sticks.
I volunteer to make the face sticks.
If you want to give me a bunch of face sticks, I can put them at the stage area.
Andrew?
Going on Mark's question of having a little video at the beginning or end, could the student reps maybe contribute to that video? I mean, I know for Maria and I, it'd be sort of, you know, congratulating our fellow classmates, but that might still be nice to have the additional student perspective in that little video.
Yeah, I know that it was a highlight for our student reps as well to be able to participate before.
We will work with the communications department to get everybody scheduled on that, or to get the process figured out. And then I think the good example is the last video that the board did. I think the whole thing ended up being like a minute or so. Beth, you'll have to remind me, but I want to say it was a minute and a half. And that was really well received. So I think if we put something together kind of similar with people using the same parameters for their comments, I think that'd be fun to add in there.
Okay, so I just wanted to go back and ask if there was other questions about the COVID update. I think Mark, you had some.
Yes, please.
Comment. Okay.
Yeah. So what would you say is sort of our drop dead? That's what our deadline to make a decision. So as you mentioned at the outset, I feel like information changes quite a bit. And if you look at the CDC guidelines for reopening schools, that's not for reopening schools in fall necessarily. It's reopening schools tomorrow. And if it feels like, you know, in early March, things would change every 12 hours. Now we get information every couple of days. So, I mean, we could go through 20 something information cycles between now and the first day of class. So what is the sort of timeline required to implement something? Like how long can we put off this final decision so we have the most accurate information possible?
Yeah, I think we'll be putting it off for a while, but in the background, we'll be making contingency plans based on, you know, a number of different scenarios. So I would guess we won't know until mid-August what it's actually going to look like. But in the meantime, we will be doing a lot of planning for various scenarios. So
yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, Dale mentioned some of the items that they're looking at, some of the other districts that we're working with. We're going to continue to meet on a weekly basis, and but I would guess it'll be August before we know for sure what the circumstances in the state and in the nation are. But we'll be planning it throughout that time.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense to me, right? Like, let's be optimistic and hope for every kid in a seat, and then if that's not possible, what's our plan?
Yeah.
To Mike's other point earlier, I think we all would love to see the legislature get into special session and give us some definitive answer as to what our budget will be for next year. I don't know how closely you all in your daily life follow the stuff that goes on around that. I've been in my new job, I've been following it pretty closely. So the forecast is grim. The revenue forecast that came out, is that something Michelle's supposed to cover later? Forecast is grim, but it's not as bad as it could be. So right, there was a surplus. We were budgeting based on continued expansion, and so you see the top line number of 2.7 billion, but that's we have to have a balanced budget by the end of the biennium, and it doesn't take 2.7 billion in cuts to get there. It's about 950 million in cuts. It's still terrible, but as a state, it's not as bad as it could be. And I also there's a couple of things influencing when the legislature will likely be asked by the governor to go into session. The legislature can call a special session on their own. Very unlikely. Probably won't happen. A couple of reasons. One, it's sort of unusual. And two, once a special session begins, they really can't raise money for a fall campaign. So people who might have contested campaigns in the fall are not super excited to take that off their table. The sort of more governmental reason is sort of twofold. So we're about to embark on what's called legislative days. So consider this a update from the LPC, where all of the committees will meet. They will all be virtual at this point and get testimony and hear whatnot. So I'll be covering the House Committee on Education this Friday. So if you're interested in something to do this Friday, tune in and watch the House Committee on Education get public testimony from higher education and K-12. So the House will do all of their committee meetings. Then there's all the joint committee meetings, and then all of the Senate committee meetings. So they don't happen concurrently. So we won't get out of Senate committee meetings until probably June 18th, something like that. So the likelihood of us going into session during those committee meetings is nearly impossible. So the last week of June is probably the earliest. So 22nd is probably the earliest, maybe the 29th. And then if they look at it and go, well, holiday could be July 6th. So it feels weird to be in this sort of period where so much uncertainty and budgetary uncertainty, but I really think we're not going to have anything definitive for quite some time. The sort of other political aspect of it is that you hear things like the state of Oregon got 1.4 billion from the CARES Act, which is true, but that money cannot be used to fill holes in general fund. All of that money is earmarked and has to be spent on additional expenses required by the COVID crisis. So, Washington County got some, Portland got some, Clackamas County got some, and they're all so when you consider all of the municipalities in Oregon to which that money needs to be distributed, 1.4 billion is really not all that much when you consider the damage of the economic crisis. So, in that respect, I think our legislature is wondering if there will be another federal program enacted, a CARES 2, 3, 4, right? So I guess it'd be 4 at this point. So again, they're probably reluctant to go back into a special session until we know whether that's going to happen. So with all that in mind, I don't think we'll probably likely see session until last week of June at the earliest, and maybe later.
Yeah, I think that everybody in the community is probably just wondering what our timeline is, and you're right, it is dependent on these other things going on first before we're able to have some clear guidance of what the school year would look like next year. Mike, did you want to add?
Yeah, I missed the opportunity to have Michelle give a little update on the process we're using to begin our, a look at what our budget might look like for next year. So I think I mentioned last time around that we're doing some modeling and trying to determine areas where we could make reductions and penciling out what that would look like. But let me give Michelle a minute to go over that process that we're currently using.
Thanks, Mike. And thank you, Mark, for being so tuned into what's happening in Salem, because it was nice to have some little bit of affirmation in your email about the kind of the complex backdrop for our budget, because the COVID-19 crisis has impacted different revenue streams that fund different things in education. So it's not a put money in the bucket and take it out for K-12. It's not like that at all. So it's nice to have somebody monitoring so closely as we make that journey. So right now we are targeting, because it's not as bad as we initially thought the forecast might be, we've eased up off of our tiered reduction levels a little bit. So we're still looking at flat, no SIA funding above what needs to fund a portion of the state school fund. And then see, 5 and 10% reduction levels to our current service level. And again, back early on in the year, we set our staff on a higher staffing level, given all of the work and investment we were expecting from Student Investment Act. So not only are we pulling reverse on that, we're going down in our current service level from where we are today. So it is not an easy process. We've begun the process with K-12 administrators to gather feedbacks about values on top of all of the guidance we've already seen from our stakeholders through the Student Investment Act process. So that was kind of step one. So as we ask for reductions to happen at the school and department levels, that folks have their value set, the district's value set front and center as we do those changes. So that's the next steps for us. We do have timelines internally that we're really struggling with in terms of how long it takes to turn around and try and create staffing sheets at various funding levels like that. Normally, looking at a budget hole of 10% of current service level, we would have started in November and really begin steps on that process and how can we navigate these waters. So trying to get as far as we can, knowing that those big ticket items that require bargaining, those are hanging out there, but we really want to try and see what we can do to retool within the current service level that we're offering. And the other challenge is, COVID related in terms of operations. Until we really know what our restrictions are, how many kids we can put on a bus, how many kids we can put in a classroom, is that an every other day experience? Getting those one-to-one devices in place, that's going to be more critical now than ever. So there's a lot of work being done right now on our contingency plans, as Mike mentioned. So just to make sure that you guys are kind of tuned into that.
Thank you, Michelle. There was a comment here from Martin. Did you have a comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to share with the group that, Mike was sharing, when these things would play out. And in a broader sense, there's these phases that the governor has established: phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And in each of those phases, certain conditions have to be met, and then group sizes can expand, if you will. There's always the ability to go back, if COVID-19 roars back. So, and they're basically on a county basis. So Washington County has applied to go from what we've called phase 0, which is basically stay home, save lives. Washington County has applied, and we anticipate going to phase 1 on the 1st of June, which is Monday. And typically, my reading of the tea leaves, which is just my opinion, but I watch this quite closely, is if you're accepted into phase 1, that means you've really done all the homework to be successful. You've got the contact tracing, you've got the ability to handle cases as they emerge. So if you're in phase 1 and cases don't blow up on you, then you're on a glide slope to go to phase 2, which would be about 21 days later. So then once we get into phase 2, the group size goes from 25 in phase 1 to 100 in phase 2. So I'm sharing this with the group because as the county at large moves through these phases successfully, I think there'll be a community expectation that we're on some level getting back to normal. How that translates into expectations for HSD in particular, I don't know. And I would add that phase 3 is the last of the 3 phases, and it still anticipates the potential for restrictions, for example, on mass gatherings and large venues. So I don't know if there'll be a Portland Trailblazer game, for example, in phase 3. So there may not be a high school football game in phase 3. I don't know. None of us know. But as I look through these phases and apply it to my work life, one of the consistent themes is face coverings. It's there everywhere. And so my question for you, Mike, and the assembled educators is there going to be some sort of policy or expectation on face coverings? Because that seems to be the magic, that's the silver bullet for getting people back into the workplace. Are we going to ask kids to wear face coverings?
I believe so. We've been interacting with Oregon Department of Education as well as those other districts I mentioned, and that is a conversation that keeps coming up. And as we talk about the guidelines that are coming out within the next week or so, that keeps coming up. So I think that will be part of the expectation, is that we have some type of plan in place to take that into account. So if I had to guess today, I would say yes, we will be doing that, and we will see our staff and our kids with those face coverings. That would be if we were making a decision today, that's where we would land on that.
We have one time, just last comment here for Yadira, and then I'll send it back to you, Mike, since we're running out of time. Yadira?
I would totally agree with the face mask, just from my own experience. But my other question is, what type of community input do we have regarding the different plans, or do we plan on involving the community at some point to kind of get their feedback and really just get a pulse on how parents are feeling about kids coming back to school and what they would like to see us doing if, you know, we do in fact bring kids to school, and what would make them feel safer?
So the way this is working out right now is that there's a lot of conversation around how what school might look like in the fall in one county in Oregon may be very different what it looks like in the metro area. And so my understanding as to what's going to happen next from ODE as well as the governor's office in consultation is that there will be guidelines that come forward, and those guidelines will essentially be the expectations for what is in place when we bring kids back to on-site education. And it'll be required of the districts that we submit a plan that would show how we're meeting those guidelines. So I don't believe that it will be it'll be like that much community input. I think there'll be a lot of communication that goes on, and a lot of planning to make sure that whatever we submit to ODE meets the guidelines that the state has in place for kids coming back physically together.
So I said last comment, and then I got 2 really quick questions on here. So let's make it really quick, so we're running out of time here. Mark, and then Danny.
Yeah, I think the face coverings are mask covering, and yeah, they all have different connotations when you read all the things. So if face coverings are a thing, are we prepared to provide them for students that can't provide them for themselves?
We're working now to buy some of these things in bulk. Casey and his team are joining in conversations with the broader community to see if we can get even deeper discounts on some of this stuff. So we are exploring what the cost would be right now, but I can tell you just in a nutshell that if we are requiring it, then it would be on us to provide it. So that doesn't mean that some students wouldn't provide their own, but it does mean that we would have some available for all students.
And if they're paper, then we're disposing of them at the end of every day and using a new one the next day. And
we honestly, we're not that far yet.
Okay.
But right, those will all
The
be
next update.
yeah, that'll be the next update.
Sounds good. Danny?
So keeping in mind, this is an ever evolving conversation. This ends up being more of a comment than a question, but keeping in mind with our students with special needs, I was wondering if there's any consideration for like phonemic awareness lessons. I remember going to a kindergarten class this year and they had this big sign with like the mouth movements of how to make certain words. And I know that that's a big part of some of the newer ideas around teaching phonemic awareness. And I was wondering, like, just keeping that in mind with how we do that, as well as some of our students with like sensory needs and how, you know, the whole day having something on their face could affect them. Obviously, on a personal note, I'm 100% for face coverings. I wear one all day at work. Like, I think they're super important, but just keeping those things in mind as we're moving forward.
Thank you, Danny. Okay, just a quick last update before we get sign off and go to our regular session. Mike, I think last time I just asked about our kindergarten enrollment and how we're doing that. Can you just speak to that before we sign off?
It's a perfect thing to end on because it's a bit of good news in terms of how something is working out. So, Fran, could you provide that update for us?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. So today we went live for our virtual kinder orientation week and had everything up, and we ran analytics at the end of the day from just the start of the day until about 3:30 today, and we had almost 1,000 hits to the website. Each of our schools, I know, yay! It was 960 something. And that this wasn't over the weekend when it was live, so we didn't have the analytics switched on until this morning. And then all of our schools are having a virtual time. So one of the schools, Imlay, today had 52 different students show up for the virtual kinder orientation, many of which we didn't even have on our radar for coming next year. So they were able to walk them through the registration process. And it seems that's a good win for us because it really seems like we're able to capture our students and find them.
Thank you, Fran. Okay, everyone, we are at the end of our work session, so we are going to recess our regular, our work session. Rose, do we have a different link or is this we just stay on this one?
I think she said stay on this one.
Okay, so we are recessing our board meeting and I am calling into order our regular board session. Okay, everyone, our first order of business is our flag salute. If you all join me, please. I'll mute this time so we don't get a lot of feedback from everyone. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Pull up my board meeting agenda. So our first item that we have is our recognition and proclamations. We have one proclamation today that I will be reading. And it's in your board packets as well. Oh, this is an additional one. Here we go. The Hillsboro School District celebrates the 20th anniversary that President Bill Clinton declared June Gay and Lesbian Pride Month. And that on June 1st, 2009, President Barack Obama expanded the commemoration further by declaring June to be Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Pride Month. The Hillsboro School District recognizes that the struggle for dignity and equality for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and questioning LGBTQ people is reflected in the tireless dedication of advocates and allies who strive to forge a more inclusive society. The Hillsboro School District understands that LGBTQ individuals including those who live in our local communities, face discrimination simply for being who they are and for who they love. And there remains much work to do to extend the promise of our country to every person. The Hillsboro School District commemorates the landmark Supreme Court decision of 2015 guaranteeing marriage equality in all 50 states was a historic victory for LGBTQ Americans and continues to affirm our belief that we are all more free when we are treated as equals. The Hillsboro School District celebrates that the month of June is nationally recognized as a time to celebrate contributions of the LGBTQ community to our society and collective history. The Board of Education of the Hillsboro School Districts do hereby proclaim the month of June 2020 to be LGBTQ Pride Month. We urge all community members to join us in recognizing the many contributions and achievements of the LGBTQ community to the development and prosperity of our society. Thank you all. Okay, our next item on our agenda is our approval of agenda. I'm looking for a motion.
I move that the Board of Directors approve the agenda as printed.
Second.
So it has been moved by Mark and seconded by Jackie. All those in favor, please signify by commenting in the chat yes or no in your votes, or aye. Okay, I am reading the yeses. Lisa Allen, Yadira Martinez, Sheehan Kim, Mark Granum, Jackie Spross, Mark Watson. Looking for a comment here, sorry. And the motion carries. Martin, did you have a comment?
Question, actually, maybe Mike would know. Is this the first time the Hillsboro School Board has made the LGBTQ proclamation?
Yes, this is the first time we've done that.
Excellent. I just want to congratulate the Hillsboro School District on making this first proclamation. It's huge.
Thank you, Martin. Our next item on our agenda is we have audience time, and as we know, there's a availability for our community members to provide public comment on our website. Rose, do we have any public comment today? So I may read.
Yes, I'm going to read that for you.
Okay, let me first read our audience participation statement. Public participation in board meeting is governed by policy BDDH. Visitors who wish to speak before the board must complete an intent to speak card available on our website. Comments concerning a published agenda item are limited to its designated place on the agenda, unless otherwise authorized by the board. Comments about non-agenda items will be heard at this time. Speakers should state their name, and if speaking for an organization, the name of the organization. A spokesperson should be designated to represent a group with a common purpose. Speakers may offer objective criticism of district operations and programs, but in public sessions, the board will not hear comments regarding any individual district staff member. Commendations involving staff members should be sent to the superintendent. Channels for the board's review of legitimate complaints involving individuals include board policy KL, public comment, the visitor with an administrator, to receive comments regarding personnel. Any hearing conducted before the board regarding personnel shall take place in an executive session. The board thanks all visitors for their presence and appreciates the input of community members. And with that, I'll have Beth read as our public comments.
All right, we have one intent to speak, and that was submitted by Haley Gesford, who is one of our students. She's a senior at Glencoe High School. I just so happen to know she's one of the valedictorians as well as senior class president. And I know that she's fielding a lot of questions from both her classmates and from parents and community members. So I have to hand it to Haley. She's really doing a great job in handling it all in stride. So here's her comment. First, thank you for the work being done to make sure we get some kind of commencement. I know teacher parades where teachers drive by students aren't allowed, but what about parades for our seniors through neighborhoods where they could drive by the teachers, properly social distanced, of course? Also, are there exceptions being made for split families or large families for the 1 car per graduate rule during the drive-through commencement? Mike, are you okay with me taking part of that?
Yep. Let me take part, and then you take part. Sorry, I was trying to unmute quickly, and I was struggling. So here we go. First of all, Haley, thank you for the question. And to Beth's point, Haley has been doing a great job of fielding questions and helping us do some planning on what our graduation ceremonies would look like. So we did get from a few parents the question about the number of cars, and Beth mentioned this a little bit earlier, but we have asked that families continue to try and work that out to do the 1 car scenario. And the reason for that, as Beth mentioned earlier, is that we have that max guideline of gathering that we're staying within. And so if we get more cars and people coming out and doing pictures while we've got staff members there and we've got people filming and we've got graduates going across the stage, then we can quickly exceed that. The other reason that we're being so careful with that is that we are on a pretty tight timeline. If we think 2 to 3 minutes per graduate to come into the stadium, or once they get out of the car and they get what they need at the table in the station and they do their video going across, they announce their name, we are going to struggle to stay within that 2 to 3 minute period. So we've asked that pictures be taken in a different location and that we really keep to a small number gathered in any one spot. So that's part of the reason behind that. When it comes to the parade piece, we've tried to be really careful about providing opportunities for our graduates that all graduates can participate within. So for example, if students were going to do a parade, or if we were going to, in reverse, if there was going to be a parade to the student's house, we want to be mindful of 2 things. We've got high density housing situations with a number of our students that could pull a high number of people out of any one building or any one location. And we could, unknowing or without trying, we could be setting up an opportunity for a lot of people to gather just by the spectacle that we would be creating. The other way of looking at that, if it were to be a student parade that went by the teachers' homes, first of all, I think we would, a couple things on that. We would have teachers that weren't maybe able to participate, or getting teachers all together in one location again would result in exceeding the number. And the other thing that we're mindful of is that not all students would have the ability to participate in that parade. And we're, like I mentioned at the onset, we really are trying to keep our activities something that everyone can participate in. Beth or Dale, anything you want to add to that?
You did a great job, Mike. The only other thing that I was going to add to the concerns related to more than 1 car per graduate is that one of the things that almost shut us down with Hillsboro Police was the whole issue around traffic control. And so we need to be very vigilant about limiting the number of vehicles that we have coming into the stadium and going out of the stadium at any given time. And if we end up in a situation where for some reason we're backing up onto Century Boulevard, as much as they support this activity and event, we could put ourselves in a situation where they have to shut us down. And I just don't want any of our graduates to have to be in that situation. We want this to be as smooth and happy an event as possible. And as much as we understand that there are some families with difficult situations, we're just asking that you really try your best to work it out for one day. And that's also why we're trying to do so many things to give you alternate options with the live stream, with the broadcast over the FM station, things like that.
Thank you, Mike and Beth. There's just a couple comments in the comment area that I wanted to address. that normally we don't address public comment right away when we speak to it, but I think at this moment with a lot of the COVID-19 updates that we're doing, usually Mike will also address things during his superintendent time. So I think it's totally fine to address this right now, just because this is kind of on everybody's mind right now with graduations. The other comments on here that from Jackie, that this is also a privacy confidential issue with addresses of staff, agreed by Amanda and Mark. And I think Andrew, just for clarification, was saying that I think you're referring to staff physically distancing at the school, not giving out like their address to go drive by their neighborhoods, if that's accurate. So I just wanted to share those comments that are in here because of our live stream now. Okay. So with that, we are moving on to our next item on our agenda, which is our consent agenda, and I'm looking for a motion.
I move that the board of directors approve the consent agenda as printed.
Second.
So it has been moved by Jackie and seconded by Sheehan. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please signal by typing in the chat yes or aye. All the ayes are Mark Watson, Yadira Martinez, Lisa Allen, Martin Granum, Sheehan Kim, Jackie Spross, and myself. The motion carries. Our next item on our agenda is our action items. And we have three. We'll start with our first one with Michelle Morrison, which is to approve lease financing and resolution for a school bus purchase.
Thank you. So tonight we're bringing forward step 2 of 2. And as it states on your situation page, we approved purchases for buses kind of as we're on our gross polluter replacement schedule. We approved a purchase of 15 buses back in January, and that order has gone in. And this is part 2, which is securing lease financing for 10 of the 15 buses. 5 of those buses were going to be paid for by a Volkswagen settlement brokered by the DEQ. So all of these things are currently in place. This is an annual process that we do in order to, like I mentioned, stay on our schedule for replacement of gross polluters. Looking ahead a little bit, and given our potential limitations around transportation for students, I don't see that we're going to have any lessening of a need for buses as we move into next year. Happy to answer any questions you might have about the lease, the reimbursement that's required by the bank. It's a process that we have in place to pass a resolution that allows the district to pay the vendors directly and then reimburse itself from the proceeds of the lease at the time all of the equipment is received. So that's the reason for the additional resolution piece.
If there are no questions for Michelle, then I'm looking for a motion.
Move that the board of directors approve the financing of 10 vehicles on a 4-year lease with an annual payment not to exceed $332,466.60 and adopt a resolution for reimbursement as required by U.S. Bank government leasing.
Second.
So it has been moved by Martin and seconded by Yadira. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by voting aye or yes in the chat, please. All of our yes votes are Jackie Spross, Martin Granum, Yadira Martinez, Lisa Allen, Mark Watson, Sheehan Kim, and myself, the motion carries.
Thank you. I will be asking Rose to circle back with you to get a signature on the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Our next item on our agenda is to elect our Northwest RESD board member.
All right, I think that one's me. And I see Lisa Politz has joined us, and she's lurking outside her home somewhere there. So Lisa, welcome. Good to see you. As you are aware that the Northwest Regional ESD, their positions, when they come open, one of the things that we do is we don't do it. The Northwest Regional ESD, they post in their papers of record that there is an opening. They also post online for several weeks. And after that is done, the applications go to the ESD, and then they send them to the school districts for which the zone that candidate represents. So Lisa represents the Hillsboro School District. These elections typically aren't as involved as a regular school board meeting. I think Lisa can probably attest to that because she's done both. In this particular, for Zone 3, we actually are the only district that represents Zone 3. So we're the only district making a decision on this. Lisa was the only applicant, probably because she's doing such a nice job. Nobody wanted to challenge her. So thanks, Lisa, for your years of service. And just some things for you to know about Lisa is that she is a former member of the Hillsboro School District Board. She's worked in the Sherwood School District, and she's also the parent of a student that receives special services, and so she's got a lot of background and information. And Lisa, I'll give you a chance to share additional information. I hope I didn't steal everything that you shared in your election material. So my apologies if I did that. Lisa, you are muted.
Here we go. Okay, I was able to find it. I really don't have anything else to add. I've been on the ESD board now 8 years. So I'm representing the Hillsboro School District boundary area. I still live in the Shoals community, and I would be thrilled to do it for another 4 years. Do you have any questions?
Madam Chair, if I might ask Lisa a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Lisa, actually, it's more of a statement. I'd like to say thank you for your service. It's much appreciated. And I did want to share with you a value of mine, certainly, and I think many, if not all of my colleagues or in the district more broadly, is around the issue of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So as a member of the ESD, if you would do everything that you can to further those goals and keep that on the forefront of the ESD's thinking and actions and planning, I think that would be much appreciated, certainly by me.
Yeah, definitely. It is going to be part of the newly adopted strategic plan. It is threaded through all the different goals of our strategic plan. We are, as an agency, our staff does not represent the students in which we serve, and that is something we're actively working on, including working with the pipeline for new teachers.
Thank
I don't
you,
know this earlier, Lisa, but we just passed the first LGBTQ proclamation as a district. So that I think is reflective of where our hearts are on the issues of diversity.
Agreed.
Thank you, Martin, for your comments, and thank you, Lisa, for your service. There's also just some additional kudos and thanks to you from our board members as well.
Thank you.
So if there are no further questions for Lisa, I'm looking for a motion, board members.
I move that the Board of Directors endorse the Zone 3 candidate application as presented.
Second.
So it has been moved by Jackie and seconded by Martin. Is there any further discussion? there isn't any, please signify by voting yes or aye or no on your chat screen so I can tally your votes, please. Okay, all the yeses are Jackie Spross, Yadira Martinez, Mark Watson, Sheehan Kim, Lisa Allen, Martin Granum, and myself. The motion carries. Thank you, Lisa, for joining us.
Thank you, Lisa.
Okay, our next item on our agenda is item 3, ratify agreement with Hillsboro Classified United with Conaloo Williams.
Good evening, everyone. I want to direct you to page 29 and 30 of the board packet to talk about this ratification. So this is about House Bill 2016. It's the Oregon Public Workers Protection Act, and the legislature passed this in this past year to address collective bargaining for public employees. And the new law requires public employers to provide reasonable paid time off in labor and employment union activities. And this House bill went into effect on January 1st, 2020. So during this early part of spring in February, we started to have conversations with the union around this, and they requested to negotiate to implement those changes. And we wanted that to better match the provisions of the House bill. And we were only updating certain sections of Article 4, union rights as a classified management agreement, had language that did meet some of those guidelines. On May 12th, we were able to reach tentative agreement with HCU to update for the Article 4 for the union rights in the areas of release time, information, and the new employee orientation. And so some of the language that was already there, we updated under release time, was to provide full-time leave for the union president. The modification that we also put in place was if there was a wish to go beyond the 3 years for such service, that would be dependent on a discussion that would take place and mutual agreement between the district and the union. And then also additionally, we currently have 1,000 hours per school year for union activities to take place, which we negotiated in our last contract process with bargaining. And we also expanded those pieces to include union sanctioned training, conferences, or advocacy activities that they could use those 1,000 hours for. And then in terms of information, we just updated the pieces that allowed for an editable digital spreadsheet containing information for each employee in the bargaining unit. And the new language includes all the information outlined in House Bill 2016, consolidating the multiple reports currently shared with the union as one report. And then finally, the new employee orientation was another topic of conversation through our bargaining conversations. And this would allow, if we had a new employee orientation, that there would be time for the union to work with the newly hired bargaining unit members and employees for at least 30 minutes. And the language was included since the district currently offers an online orientation for all classified employees. So that is an overview of this ratification. And so I would open it up to any questions that you may have.
I move that the Board of Directors approve the updated bargaining agreement language with Hillsboro Classified United, effective for the remainder of the current agreement, which is through June 30th, 2021, as tentatively agreed to by the district bargaining team.
Second.
So it has been moved by Mark and seconded by Jackie. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please signify by voting yes or aye in our chat. Okay, all the yes votes are Martin Granum, Yadira Martinez, Lisa Allen, Sheehan Kim, Mark Watson, Jackie Spross, and myself. The motion carries. And a reminder from Beth, and I will remember to do this at the beginning of our meeting as well, is just to speak slowly for the benefit of our translators that are translating our meetings. Okay, our next item on our agenda is reports and discussion, and we have a financial report with Michelle.
Thank you. Directors, just want to give my usual shout out to my team in the business office and the work that they're doing, and our focus on right now kind of supporting administrators and families as our staff are doing some creative fundraising and kind of helping to channel those efforts and provide them support given the district's lens and controls in that. Just a note that we didn't have any donations received by the district in excess of $5,000 for April, but I know that, and if you are interested in more information, Beth may have it as well, but a giant lift from our friends at Hillsboro Schools Foundation to develop a fund to support our vulnerable families. So those are some really big efforts that we're working on. I have, you can see that we're starting to dip a little bit in our workman's comp and incident reports, of course, because schools aren't experiencing students right now. So there's that as a note that's different. And then I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about our cash flow report as well.
Did you want me to add information about what has come through the Hillsboro Schools Foundation?
I think that would be appropriate if.
Okay. I know that, gosh, last time I checked, which was well over a week ago, they were up to almost $10,000 in donations through the special donation link that they popped up for us several weeks back, which is amazing. And kind of as they get the money, they bring it over and deposit it with us. We've set up, I shouldn't say we, Christy Woodard down in the business office has helped set up a special account code for that. And I just signed today the first 2 reimbursement requests for our volunteer coordinator, Colleen, who has purchased food to go to our school-based food pantries, you know, and that money is going to reimburse that effort. So that's amazing. And we also, Aaron on our behalf wrote a grant to the Hillsboro Community Foundation that was funded at a level of $15,000. And then we also recently found out that we are receiving $25,000 from Intel that will support our effort to provide internet access to students. So we are very grateful for all that. And of course, we had full donation support for all of our senior signs, which was over a $9,000 lift to get all those senior signs made. And we're very appreciative to that.
If I could just chime on to that. Aaron Carlson is listening right now, and this would just be a great opportunity to say thank you to her. And I've been saying throughout this entire event over the last couple months that really the silver lining in all of this is how quickly our partners have been able to pivot to meet the needs of our students. And I think the Hillsboro Schools Foundation is just an incredible example of that, to shift to gathering funds that could quickly assist students and families in need. Absolutely amazing. So Aaron, I know you're out there listening, and just a big thank you to the entire Hillsboro Schools Foundation, as well as Intel, as well as those other companies that are contributing to help make this experience for our students as bearable as possible. So huge thank you.
Yeah, she texted me and said it's at 60,000 now. So
wow.
It was off by about 10,000, but we, again, like Mike said, we're super appreciative.
So the flip side to that is the pretty significant collaboration that's happening within the district, so that regardless of what the families are needing, we're trying to connect them with resources. So everything from access to the internet, to technology, to basic needs in the home. We've developed a mechanism to funnel people to the right space. So it's been a real privilege to be a part of that.
Thank you, Michelle, for the report. Okay, if there are no further questions on this topic, we are moving on to our next item on our agenda, which is HCU and HEA reports. And do we have our reps on?
Hi, everyone. Jill Golay, Hillsboro Education Association president. And I tonight wanted to give a shout out to all of my members, the teachers and nurses, counselors, psychs. They are amazing. They have worked, diligently through all of these challenges. And I know they're really looking forward to June 13th. And I just wanted to recognize all of them and just say thank you and how much I appreciate them. And I'm just so privileged to be their president. And just we'll continue to navigate the weeks ahead and what summer and fall will look like. So thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Do we have Melody on?
Yeah, I'm here. Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for voting to approve the bargaining agreement. Started out really we started out meeting face to face, and then we had to switch it up and do a virtual bargaining, which was interesting, but not as bad as I had thought it would be. So thank you for approving that. I'm just going to keep it super short tonight. It has been an incredible few weeks, working long hours, trying to do my furlough hours too. I think one day I was successful. Okay, not really. But I just want to put a shout out to the classified employees that, they're putting in the time, they're putting in their work, doing things that they normally wouldn't do. So thank you to all of them. And big thank you to everybody for stepping up and being flexible and having some compassion for different people and going through different things. Because we don't really know what anybody's going through until we walk in their shoes. And so I just want to say thank you for showing some compassion to the employees and the students and stuff. So thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Melanie. Okay, our next item is we have discussion time. And let's start with our student reps. And I'll just call on who I see on my screen first. Maria.
Okay. I just want to say that I am super proud about our board. I've been talking to a lot of kids from my class, and although they do wish that we could go further with things, I do try to remind them the guidelines that we're following, and they do get in. They get back to thinking that, well, at least we're having something, and we look at other districts, at other states, and some of them aren't even celebrating their students. So to see how much you guys we've tried to have something, it's so cool to see and to be part of, because not everyone gets to live it. So I'm very grateful for that, and I'm very proud of all of you guys, because I know that it's super hard right now, but you guys are doing your best and your actions show it. So other than that, I'm just very grateful.
Thank you, Maria. I love seeing your gown in the background.
Thank you. I'm very excited to use it.
Next we have Andrew.
I'd like to start off by thanking all of our essential workers and HSC staff. I know many or all teachers have been off campus, and classified staff have been driving buses or doing other things around the district to help out as well. We have eternal appreciation. Also, shout out to the members of the senior leadership team. We've been, as Mike said, we've been fielding a lot of questions about graduation. We've had to be truthful with some people in terms of not giving false hope. and really being real with our class about the situation. But we are grateful, as Maria said, that we're still getting some sort of opportunity to celebrate. I guess in terms of what's been going on with my life, I participated in my first election, which was super cool. And then what else happened? Thursday, May 14th, I think Marie and I both got our signs. It's super cool to have a sign out in my front yard saying, class of 2020 graduate. And I think this is something that we should continue moving forward, even if we get back to having in-person ceremonies, because it is nice having something that, highlights that, we're graduating. I know some neighbors surprised me with some balloons, which is super nice of them. And then I also submitted my AP Art portfolio. AP Art is real. Their portfolios for drawing, 2D design, and 3D design. And I did the 2D art and design. And super fun. I've been in art for all 4 years of high school. And it really has helped me in terms of expressing myself, exploring new ways to show things visually and to be able to represent things, whether in an abstract way or in a realistic way. Moving forward, I know we have a lot of budget things coming up, but I do hope that we continue funding the arts and music equitably, because they truly are what make us human. There's a reason that they're called the humanities, is because they are what make us human, and no other species has the ability to manipulate color, sound, and space in the way that we can as humans. And last but not least, in about 15-20 minutes is the season premiere of America's Got Talent. Summer hasn't really started, or the beginning of summer break hasn't really started until America's Got Talent starts. So it's awesome that that's coming back on. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. That is a really beautiful sentiment about why it's called the humanities. I think that was really great. And our last student rep is Danny.
Hi. I wanted to first say, congratulations to both Andrew and Maria for our 2 seniors this year. As the only non-senior student rep, I have to say I'm a little jealous of the salon signs, but do hope it's something we keep up. They look cool. I've been really enjoying on my drive to work and, taking my dog on walks, seeing all the yard signs out in my neighborhood and being like, oh, I didn't know we had so many seniors in our neighborhood and different things like that. I think that's been super fun. I want to thank the board for all of their, keeping it together and trying to move forward as much as we can in this difficult time and make those difficult decisions about whether or not we're going to cut something and how we're going to handle graduation and all that. And I think especially thank you to Beth for really getting out there and trying hard for our seniors to make sure that they get celebrated in the way that they belong. On a more personal note, PCC, we're about 2-3 weeks away from finals. I should probably strap down what week that is. And so our early college students, we're working hard trying to get all that figured out with balancing both regular high school stuff and then early college stuff at the same time, working towards that. And I know that all the seniors that I've talked to are sort of expressing the same sentiment that Maria was saying of being a little sad they don't get their full graduation thing, but being happy that the district is still finding a way to celebrate them. So thanks to that.
Thank you, Danny. She had a Scooby for us. And next we'll have our superintendent's time with Mike.
All right, thank you. As was mentioned, we are going to be working on what fall looks like, and that's going to take up a considerable amount of time moving forward, as well as the whole budgeting process. That's something that we just agonize over trying to get it just right. And the depth of the potential cuts that are coming at us are pretty significant. So we're going to be spending a lot of time on that and much more information to come on that. However, I would like to just end on two positive notes. It was mentioned by both Jill and Melody, the way that the staff has responded to this crisis that we find ourselves in. And it really is amazing. The different delivery model that has had to be employed and the steep learning curve that was necessary to make all that happen. So a huge thanks to all of our staff members who have been able to make this happen for our students. And I think Yadira said it several months ago, is that each week it just continues to get better and better. And I just appreciate all of the staff who have made that happen for our students. The other thing I would say is I'm looking forward over the next couple of weeks to dropping in and celebrating the graduates. Really wish that we could do that in person. And I know the board literally is the favorite thing they talk about each year is graduations, and just heartbreaking that we can't do that in person. But don't let that diminish the accomplishment, because it certainly doesn't for us. We're incredibly proud of all of our seniors, our 2 seniors here for our student reps, incredibly proud of you guys, and to look forward to celebrating you just in a very different way this time around. So that's all I had this evening.
Thank you, Mike. I'm just going to call on my board members in the order I see them here. Jackie?
I really don't have a lot. I hope everybody had a safe, long holiday weekend, and everyone's still adjusting to living at work, or going into work, whatever it is that you do. And yeah, that's about it. Just stay safe, stay healthy, and remember to be kind.
Thanks, Jackie. Mark, you're next, and then Martin, you're on deck.
A couple of great events recently. So had the opportunity to participate in the retirement ceremony, and it was pretty spectacular. Martin was there too, and it was just the common theme that ran through their comments was, sense of family, sense of community. It was really made me very proud to be part of that organization. We also did the Vals and Sal's lunch. Beth coordinated. It was awesome. We got to drop off. We all, wore our masks, had our hand sanitizer, picked up individual boxes for the Vals and Sal's at Peaches Meach, and then dropped them off at their house so that they could, did you guys all Zoom? Probably did it all Zoom or something like that. So I had to pick up my kids from the airport, so I could only participate in the drop off part, but it was awesome. And, and at one point, a student's mom answered the door, went and got him, and he came to the door. I'm like, oh, I think you did a duet with my son once. He's like, yes, I did. So, just I didn't recognize his name on the sheet, but it was great to see him. So just a reminder that we are still doing some great events with the district, virtual proud to be HSD and everything. So keep finding ways to participate in those. I guess that leads me to sort of my sort of commentary would be a couple of things, like nomenclature of the words we use have meaning, and a subtle way to sort of change the world for better is to sort of use the language that represents what you're thinking of. So when people say social distancing, I try not to use that term. I try to use physical distancing. We're very social creatures. The connections between us are important. We need to find ways to make sure those connections stay. We're just staying apart from each other physically. So I would advocate for using the term physical distancing instead of social distancing. I'm talking too fast, I just realized. And the other thing I would advocate for is, we hear people talking about get back to normal or the new normal, or, what things are going to look like. And I would just, it's a reminder to me that if what we call before COVID normal, that for many of our students, for many in our community, that normal wasn't all that great. So I would advocate for, let's use the term a new normal and focus on how we can make that situation better for everybody. When we construct the new normal, let's keep in mind that what people would call normal wasn't so great for everybody. So, back to normal, I would rather not do that. I would rather create a new normal that's better. So those are my two advocacy for just nomenclature.
I go next. Hard to follow that. I'd like to echo Danny's comments and others. I love the yard signs. Love, love, love the yard signs. They bring a smile to me every time I see them, and I drive past the same one multiple times and I smile every time. To Jill and Melody, thank you very much. I've been waiting to have you rejoin our board meetings in this new medium, and I feel like we've arrived now to a fully functioning board when we hear your voices that are important, and it really made me very, very happy to see and hear both of you this evening. And thank you very much for joining us in this digital realm and making our board meeting complete. We had community participation, we had public comment, and we had our union leaders join, and that was very satisfying to me. I want to report back to my colleagues that I did in fact have a wonderful conversation with Mr. Young, who had reached out to us, and it was very enjoyable, very productive, and he's just a great guy, a voice in the community that we need to pay attention to and engage with. And we ended reflecting on what a wonderful time we both had at the Shockwave Robotics, which for me was the last really mass gathering I was able to participate in. And so I think he feels good about the decisions that we made. He might not agree with them, but he understands why we made them, and he has a lot of respect for that. And then lastly, Erica, I just want to say thank you for expressing interest in serving again as our chair. You're doing a fantastic job. You are absolutely magnificent in that role. I couldn't be more grateful for you willing to step into that very public and visible and demanding role on all of our behalf and serve us and the district so well. A highlight for me was when you and Mike gave a joint address to the community, and Mike spoke in English and you spoke in Spanish. And I thought, wow, that was just epic. Content delivered, original content delivered in Spanish to our community. That's powerful stuff, and you made that possible. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Martin. Next up, we have Yadira and then Sheehan on deck.
I don't have much. I don't know about the other board members, but I will be attending a graduation. I'll be in one of those cars there cheering my son on. I think I sent everyone a picture of my yard sign, and so we're looking forward to celebrating him. And you know, I think our community has just come together and really shown our seniors love. We got free donuts, and now there's like free pizza and stuff. So, I mean, it's great. We are pretty bummed though. We were planning on going to Cancun for graduation, but that's been put off. So, we'll still go, but maybe later. So, yeah, and it's really wonderful though how our community has come together to really support our graduating seniors and let them know that, you know, we're all thinking of them and we're all proud of their achievement and we're excited for the next phases of their life.
So I was able to attend the Valsal or tune into the Valsal lunch, and gosh, I absolutely loved hearing from all of our seniors who are on that call, just what their upcoming plans are and their favorite memories in high school. And I think one of my favorite things was as they were sharing, you know, advice for incoming freshmen, so many of them said, you know, take advantage of building relationships with teachers and staff early. And I think that just goes to show the incredible amount of work and intentionality that our teachers and staff have put into building relationships with these students, to where that is, you know, kind of the resounding comment that a lot of our seniors had for incoming freshmen. So I just wanted to give a huge shout out to all of our teachers and our staff members who have connected, you know, on a daily basis with these students and have really made a memorable impact on their lives. So just wanted to say that that was a huge highlight. I am so bummed that we won't be able to participate in the graduation. I did get to go to the summer graduation, so at least I have a little glimpse of what that's like. But yeah, I think, you know, if there's any way that we could, anything that we can do, whether that's through a video, I loved that idea of a video, and maybe we could even stop by, pick up gowns and film a video so that we keep the graduation kind of spirit alive in the video messaging or something like that. I'd love to see how we can maybe do that, or even if it's writing like a congratulatory note to our graduating seniors and having, you know, board members sign it, or I don't know what can happen. But, you know, just really exciting that graduation is just around the corner. And, you know, as we are ending this school year, I hope that we all can kind of take a moment to pause and reflect on just this incredible year that we have had. It's been a roller coaster of a year, and I know that we're all kind of getting into gear for this upcoming fall and for what budget is going to look like and everything. But I think that we all deserve, especially Mike and the team, you guys really do deserve just such a huge, you know, pat on the back. And I hope that you guys can take a moment of pause to really to let that sink in, that you guys have truly made a difference for our district this year in this particular crisis. And I'm just so grateful to be a part of this community as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Sheann. And then Lisa.
All right, hi everyone. Okay, I have a lot of exclamation marks on my little list. So first, I wanted to echo what Martin said earlier. I'm really excited and happy and proud that we were able to do our very first Pride Month resolution or proclamation, I guess it is. That's the word I'm looking for. So that's definitely a big step, and I'm really excited that we decided to try and highlight those really important pieces of recognition to various folks in our community. So really awesome about that. And I believe the last one that we did was for Asian American and Pacific Islander Month, and it's also really important. It was also the first time, and just really excited that we're beginning to do that. So awesome, and hooray for that. And then so excited for our high school graduates who are going to graduate. Like, they're going to be officially graduated, more officially graduated than they are now the next time we meet. So super extra fantastic congratulations to all of you for all that hard work, years and years and years of work. And this snafu is just one little sliver of it, and it does not diminish your hard work in any way, shape, or form. And your entire community is so proud of you. And really, getting to be on the stage is the only reason that I'm still sitting here on the board. It's the only perk of the job. And I'm so sad that we don't get to be there. I'm being very sarcastic or sardonic. It is not the only perk of the job, of course, but it is like a huge highlight every year. And I know that we're all so bummed that we cannot be there to celebrate with you. But we are really cheering each and every one of you on in spirit. We are so, so excited to be just this very like small speck of dust on your educational journey as a school board of your school district. So thank you for letting us do that. And I would say I am also really happy to hear the enthusiasm from the board about being a part of the graduation ceremonies. And I just want to rain on that parade a little bit and say, I think two really important things that we want to remember. Number one, for all the families and kids who are graduating, we don't really matter at all. And so we should keep that in mind. And I don't mean that meanly, I'm just being totally honest. And then the second thing is, Beth has been working incredibly hard to make this happen. And I just think we should be very, very cautious about creating more work for her and her team right now. So those are my thoughts about that. Even though I think that it's a great thought, and I would definitely participate if we did something. I'm just not sure it's super wise or pragmatic. So Andrew said something really important earlier. I want to make sure that it gets highlighted. This is on the different changing gears. He got to vote for the first time. Yay, Andrew, good job voting. You are just like 46% of people in Oregon who decided to fill out your ballot, and you're super fantastic and amazing. And so great job. I'm so thankful that we get to vote in Oregon by mail, even though, yeah, thanks, Mark. So that's just part of how we do things in Oregon. And so it's really exciting that we were able to do that. And so we should just take a minute and realize that that's kind of, that's kind of a privilege for us in Oregon. And so I'm really excited that we got to do that. And proud of our community for continuing to come out in a relatively comparable amount to the previous presidential primary. So great job, everybody. Yay, who voted? If you didn't vote, you should vote. Okay, so a couple more things. Our teachers and staff are just going above and beyond and working like crazy. And again, I'm so proud to be a part of the HSD team. And just seeing the extra work that all of the teachers that work with my own children personally are putting in is just really, it's really heartening. And I am so thankful. And I know every time there's this 5-minute video that pops up where, music teachers trying to teach kids music without actually being there, like how much time went into that video, and it's astronomical. And I know because I have to make my own videos for work, for my own job. And it's not just those 5 minutes. There's a lot that goes into it. So thank you so much to all of the staff who are just working way more than normal. And then I also want to add, teachers just always do carry, and staff, school staff, this emotional weight with them. That's sort of the weight of the job, the burden on the shoulders from being part of a family for all of your students, but not really part of their family, and just wanting to support them. And I think it's probably, I know that it's incredibly challenging emotionally to be a teacher at this time and be distanced from your students. And so let's all try and be understanding and treat our school staff with as much grace as we can, because it's a real challenge that's not normally part of the job, that distance. So thank you to the teachers and the staff. And that is the last thing I have. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Lisa. And yes, we definitely, as you can see by the comments, we agree that we are definitely an afterthought, Beth, but our number one priority is that our students get the best possible graduation under the circumstances. And if there's an ability for us to participate, we are more than happy to do so. But whatever resources we have, they should be dedicated to our students. So thank you. I wanted to just touch on something that Mark mentioned about creating a new normal. And I actually wrote an article for ORED News that will be shared probably this week or next week at the latest. And I collaborated with a school board member from Salem and a school board member from Multnomah ESD. And the article is basically about this, is creating a new normal instead of going back. We definitely see the inequities highlighted during a time of crisis. And we want to highlight how we shouldn't go back, but instead we should keep the things that we're doing now that we didn't do before, like family engagement, like technology, access to technology for our students. So I just wanted to share that with my board members, and I will share the link once it's published so that you're able to see it. And I'm using a lot of the examples from our district that we are doing that I'm so proud of. So I wanted to just share that and highlight that. I just had a huge amount of help and collaboration from Olga Cunha, who, as you all know, is an amazing staff member of HSD and a great asset to our community at large as well. I also just wanted to let you all know that there's an effort that I was emailed about called communityforgrads.com, and it's just a community effort to again just keep showering our seniors and with kudos and appreciation and congratulations for all their hard work. And it's just a little thank you card and a sticker that community members are putting together. So just wanted to give a shout out to those efforts, and again, thank you for all of our community members who are just stepping up in different ways, our businesses, our foundations like HSF, who are really taking on the challenge of addressing all the needs that we can't at the moment as a district, or that our community needs right now. And with that, I just wanted to say that I think part of that is that I don't see any other local government organization that has such intimate relationship with our families and our students that we do. And I'm so proud about just for all the hard work that all of our staff has been able to do during this time.
I think more than any time before, when we say that we're proud to be HSD, this is what we mean. So I just want to thank you all for all your work. And with that, our meeting concludes. So thank you all for joining us today. The session is closed.